what an absolute disaster. So, Dan here, DD Speed Shop. I promise you, I was caring about this thing, so I haven't done any work to it, and I've just made a heck of a mess. We've had all kinds of snow. You know, winter is nice. Well, winter's terrible, but it is nice because it forces you to work on projects. The problem is when you have the snow days and you have to finish all that work, it gets in the way of the projects. So I worked on this thing in a couple of days. But parts have come in. The El Jefe El Gianto radiator. So that's a dual core, fairly big footprint. I gotta say, it's good size. I use a lot of Performance World stuff, and that's what that is. That's like their biggest universal radiator, which is sweet. So I do have this. Now, this is I think it's a Griffin. I think that's the brand, eh? That's a Griffin symbol. My buddy Josh got that for me from a swap meet, I think this past summer. And it's got a Durale fan on it, which I think is all like quality stuff. So I think he paid like $100 for this or something like that, and that's what I gave him. And I think it's probably worth decent dollars. Now, I have put an aluminum radiator this style in. Now, Tri-5s are such a popular car, they have their own aftermarket direct bolt-in radiator, which would be this. So this is a factory one. Now, I have run these in the past on a small block Chevy. I had no issues, and I ran it in, might have been my black car, LS, and it was a Chinese knockoff. It was an eBay model. It wasn't one of these, like a name brand one. I have it in the basement. It feels half as heavy as this one. But the issue I ran into was it just started getting a little hot in the summer on the real hot days. So I mean in the 70, 80 degree Fahrenheit days, it was no problem. It was dialed. And I took it on a couple of road trips from Winnipeg to Saskatoon, which is kind of like, I don't know, 500 miles or something like that. It went back and forth, no problem. The highway was cruising and no issues, but if you would pull off the highway and hit traffic, it would start to kind of creep up. Now, when I say creep up, I'm talking like 220 degrees, and I had a 195 stat in it. Now, before everyone jumps on my throat, I realize these LS motors kind of run hotter, so that's all fine and good. That, though, told me that the radiator was undersized and it was going to start heating up. Now, I never like pressure tested it to see, not the radiator, the situation, to see how high it would get. Now, it may have continued to cook. Anyways, here, I'm going to keep babbling. So my thought process is we want to take this thing long haul, you know, down in the southern states where we're talking 100+ degree weather, stop and go traffic at these big car shows where you're just sitting for an hour idling. And I didn't like that, so I put this radiator in the black car, and man, no matter what you did, it like 200 degrees was like all of it. I put dual fans on it, so I'm going to recreate the exact same situation in this. It's overkill, probably get away with one of these little things, and trust me, I have one of these in the convertible. One of these is going to go in Danielle's car with a small block Chevy in it. There's one of these in my Nomad. So it's just this car and the other one. Is that all the Tri-5s I have? Oh, my 55 has a giant one too. But they work, and honestly, overheating is my #1 breakdown I hate, because there's no fixing it. If the alternator takes a crap, change the alternator. If water pump leaks or something like that, you fix it. If you burn a plug wire, if you have exhaust fall off, all those are fixable. Radiators or a cooling system, I think you should take your best swing at it and make it work. I mean, I guess you can add an electric fan on the highway or something like that if you don't already have all those things. But for me, we already had radiator, electric fan, the whole deal is what it is. Now, the other thing with these Tri-5s, they typically get tight on between the motor and the cowl. So there are two options. The way these bolt on the factory ones anyways. So this would put the radiator that way, and if you have it the other way, it would put it forward. And here is the genius of Chevrolet. So we're going to put the core support back in, but you have to imagine the core support went across. In a small block Chevy or a V8 application, the radiator went behind the core support, and a 6-cylinder it went in front of the core support because the 6-cylinder is longer and basically butted up right to the core support. Making sense? So what we're going to do, we're probably going to do forward mount just to give us a little bit of room. However, we're probably going to have to cut the splash pan, do a little bit of screwing around. So we're going to get this radiator out, clean all the junk out of here, and we'll just test fit this one in. I have a bunch of miscellaneous radiator hoses. I'd like a lot not to use the Mortsky specials, but we'll see what I can do. And I do have some heater hoses. We actually do have a heater box inside there, so I have to get that dialed together. So we should have a cooling system together. I only got one fan in the truck still. I don't think I have any other spares. We'll have to look. Anyways, we might see if we can use this bad boy. I don't know if it's a 16 or not, but a 14 and a 12 fit nice on this radiator. And that leaves one little open area with no fan. I just put the transmission cooler on and it runs perfect. So we can do that. We can wire up the fans. We got a lot planned. But once we get that dialed, this thing should be able to like idle on its own without having a meltdown like I do. So start taking this apart. Not bad. So, this radiator, now as I recall, it's all kind of coming back to me. I think I had one of these style or size radiators in this thing when it was going to be a big block. And I struggled getting it all together. I kind of gave up halfway through. But now, as it comes back to me, I had cut that out to fit here. I had cut out down by the petcock to fit it. I had welded a little piece of angle here, and it's sitting kind of cattywampus. These Tri-5s also give a funny look, so if you look at it, you're like, well, that hood ain't going to close, but the hood bulges. Now, the real issue we're going to run into here is I would like to just lower this section down, because this is sitting on top of the splash pan, and this is sitting kind of, well, almost on top, I guess, but really we just got to, if we cut a little section out of there, give it a little cradle to sit on, put a couple of little rubber booties under it, I think we'd be okay. Now, the radiator is offset, and the reasoning is unfortunately these factory drop downs. I mean, you could do some screwing around, I guess, but we kind of have to be on the outside of it to reach the like thermostat housing, which is actually not a bad little angle. Typically the factory ones go dead sideways, so it just needs a little roundy round. And then as LS motors are always a pain, they go, you know, here and all the way around. But I do have a factory truck hose, which this might just kind of work, or can be shortened, or whatever we got to do. So we're actually not too foobar. This thing has been butchered up, man. I tell you, though, I've cut some stuff out of this. So I should maybe I'll cut it, do a little bit of welding on it, make it look a little nicer. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Box it all in. I think we'll probably cut this section right out, maybe make a bottom piece for it. I don't know. It'll work out. And then if we can get somewhat level with this, we can just have a top clamp on it, call her a day. You don't have to worry about it. Man, that's a big honking radiator. I think we're making progress. Lots of it. So the radiator's actually level. The problem is this piece is not. Gotta be a little welded, but like that's not bad. Right across there, so you gotta pretend that's level. I moved the radiator slightly forward. That gives us lots of room to put fans on. I'm a big believer in a puller fan versus a pusher fan, so that'll be nice. Oh no, we got the heater starting. Hang on. We don't need that. Anyway, back to work. We have that radiator hose. Should be nice. I might have to just notch that. We'll see what happens. Not too bad. This is where our real issue is going to be. We gotta cut this section out. I can plate the top, no issue whatsoever, and then get in there. Now, this out. Just trying to be careful with that. It's like real dollars on that thing. So what we're gonna do here, we're essentially gonna, well, if you go back a couple of videos we did on the fuel tank, we'll make a little box for that radiator to sit on, put a couple of rubber pads. That's right on the frame, so we can't go any lower than that. Over here, because we are shifting it over, we'll just build a little box in there, be nice and sturdy. The only concern I have, we have cut all this out for that petcock. Now it was higher. Now, of course, we dropped it down, so it had to get a little bigger, but I'm thinking we just plate on the inside up to here, something like that. Will be the exact same amount of strength as if it was around that side, and we'll still be able to get to it, no problem. And then here, same thing. We'll have to, I don't know what we'll do, jog it over or do something, but we can plate this top piece no problem on the, you know, with the little piece of angle or whatever we got to do, cut all out, and then worry about that last. But I think we got to do, drag the welder from the brand new fancy fab shop over this dungeon, and then we can get to plating that inside piece with some, I don't know if I can, this isn't very thick, I got some thicker stuff, to give it a nice little easy little box area, and then we get the radiator set in. That's just going to be pretty nice when it's all done, I do say so myself. Battery died, but we're having a cascading set of issues. Now, the radiator does sit very nice. I'm very happy with that. It's going to have a real good base. That's, ow, we're going to have that, so that's all dialed. The rad's actually going to come up slightly once it's on those bumpers, but not much. The issues we now run into, this actually, I need it to be higher. I need like a circular piece on there or something. So I'll have to build that up and over. We just got to kind of hang in there. And then the other thing I run into is where I've put the steam port. Same thing. We'll have to kind of cut a little, you know, half circle out there and weld a piece of pipe in there will be okay. And then I'm thinking it's very close. The light's kind of crappy, but I'm thinking I might just kind of ixnay the corner of that and plate it. And then I don't got to screw around with anything. On the 57, I had it in there. It was very tight. And I put the radiator in there, and then I jammed like another piece of radiator hose for a bumper. But, I mean, at this point, to start cutting corners, it's December. We don't really need the thing until spring. I mean, I'd like to drive it sooner than that, but there's no point. So I'm going to keep jamming on this, making a few little kind of touches here and there, and see where we end up. I'd like to find something nice. Like this would be, like also a piece of pipe would be nice there. A big piece of pipe with, you know, some decent, a decent wall on it, but I don't really have anything. So, and I want it to be somewhat strong. Oh, and here I cut that out. But I did kind of just try and scotch it over, so I'm going to move it over a little bit, and then I'll weld the piece back on and put it in there, so it'll just attach over here versus over there. And we should have lots and lots of room. The other thing I was thinking is I could box this, so I could go high and then I could go here to here, kind of like that, so it would give it strength that way as well. So it's box there, attached there, and then the radiator would sit in. So that might be an idea we might just go ahead and do, and just have, like I said, a little hump there, which won't be as structural. We're getting there. It's actually the next day, and I've been doing a little bit of monkeying around here. So I did paint the core support just because it looks so ugly with all the weld on it, but I think it turned out, I mean, it is what it is. We got a couple of little holes in it and stuff, but she's sturdy-ish. I did add this little bar in there, so we should be okie dokie. Now, what I've been doing most of the day was just screwing around, trying to make radiator hoses work, which is super boring. So we got the radiator in here, sitting on its little rubber feet, so that's good. It's whatever. I got a little piece of radiator hose just holding it kind of level-ish. So this upper, we just used the factory Chevy one, spliced it, put it together, and it's okay. The only thing is, it's a little high. It's always nice when the radiator is the highest point, or at least the cap, so we can get all the air out. We should be okay, and yeah, I might shorten this and bring it in just a little bit. This is just a straight run, but we should be okay there. We have our little steam port ready to go across. That's all I had. We'll use this for now, but some 1/4-inch fuel line or something gotta be nice. And the lower rad hose, this was a kind of a square one, which I turned into like a bit of a round one. So I gotta poke and see what I got on the other car, because it just needs like a nice little half moon. Now the real issue we run into is, I believe the LS water neck is 1.5 inches and the radiator is 1 3/4, so it becomes a bit of a step up. So you got to really jam one on or make a little piece. Or they do sell radiator hoses that do step up, but I'll have to do some looking. That's a future Dan problem. Now this thing is, I mean, rather sturdy the way it is. I do have that top plate which looks so ugly I didn't put it on yet, so I don't want to do that. All we gotta do is run 2 heater core. Man, the rad hoses have gotten to me. Heater core hoses in there, and then this thing should be ready to go for some coolant. I gotta see if I have a belt, a spare belt. I had one in the 57 when we did a power tour, so I'm gonna see if I maybe have that somewhere. Because if we do that, then at least it'll be turning, won't charge or anything, but we could be circulating some water and maybe wire up some fans, do a few things like that. But we're making progress. This does look good. I'm happy with it. I think it's offset. It looks a little goofy, but the one I put in the 57, man, it was sitting up high and the radiator hose went over, and it looked so tacky. So we can get some low profile mounts, I mean really some flat bar or something like that, just to clamp it with those little feet. That's all it would really need. I think we'd be styling. Look at this. We're getting there. So I got some fans. Well, I got a fan. Another one is been ordered here next week. So Performance World, everything Performance World, cheapo, but it works good. So when I did the math on my 57 Chevy, there's not enough room for a 16 and anything else. You can put like a 16, maybe like an 8. So what I thought worked the best was, I'm going to put this on the front side, just kind of show you, but you put a 14 on here, which is what this is, and it gets most of the radiators, a couple inches on the bottom, and then wherever it was, either the top or the bottom, I'll put a 12, and that just leaves one little square, which we'll put a transmission cooler, which I don't know where I put. I do have this small one, like I think I'd like to put a bigger one on, just cause. So typically what you do, this radiator does not have the provision for a transmission cooler in it. So what I would do is you go through the radiator and then an external small cooler, but without that, we'll just put it on a big cooler. Again, probably won't be an issue. We're not really bagging on this thing, but down the road, if we ever decide to pull a trailer or something like that, nice to have that. We got our hoses all taken care of. Everything is kind of held into place. I'm thinking what I'm gonna do on the top here is maybe just weld a little bar and run a long bolt through it, kind of sandwich it in. We'll see what happens. Ran our heater hoses. Okay, internet, I'll give you the slightest win. We moved the computer on the inside. Now, I didn't really care, other than I thought, these hoses on is probably not a great idea. The exhaust and the battery didn't bother me, but these hoses, I didn't want them rubbing against the casing. That'd probably probably wear through. So anyways, that's on the inside. So realistically, we're gonna set the fans up. I'm going to use the computer, because the computer can trigger the fan. So you can set a predetermined temperature in there, it'll kick it on. And there is an option for 1 and 2 fans. I think I'll probably just wire them up on 1. So if the fans come on, they both come on. There's no point going 1, then the second. But that's what I did on the 57. They're both just, when they go, they go. And we'll see what this thing kind of wants to run at. And we'll click the fans on so they're just kind of on and off and doing their thing. So let's set the camera up. We'll get the fan on. I'm going to put it on the back side. I just showed you on the front side. We'll get that done. And then realistically, we'll have to, another relay on the firewall, run some power, and then I believe in this box, one of these will be the fan wire. So we'll have to run a wire to the relay to trigger it, and then run the wire up to the fan. Always heavy gauge stuff. I run overkill on fans and all that, because again, man, cooling system be important. Once you get that done, we should be able to run this thing. The other thing is, I have a guy sent in these KC lights. I'm thinking I might put a set behind the grill right here on either side, so they won't be ideal, but it'll be just an extra set of lights. I really dislike the way the LED lights look on an old car. They look tacky. I realize they work, but they ugly. And if we're in the night, my eyes are getting older, not getting younger by the day. So we got a lot of stuff to kind of get, so I'll get those things all kind of secured. We'll get it wired up. We should be able to fire this thing up, put a little water in it, carry on from there. Well, we got another relay dial in here. Again, the wiring's a little loose, but I want to make sure we have lots of room here, but very simple. Another relay runs 12 volts to the fan. We have lots of loose cable there as well, because we're going to put a second fan on there, so who knows where the wiring's going to go and do its thing, but it does work. If I can jumper this real quick. It's so hard to do with one hand, I tell you. Look at this struggle. Clicky click. So that's doing its thing. We're all good there. We got her pulling. So where I triggered it with that jumper wire, that's where we're going to have to run one of these. I don't know which one it is, and we'll have to get in there and get that programmed. I do want to run this thing today, but we're not going to bring it right up to temperature or nothing like that anyways. That just needs one wire hooked in, and it'll trigger it whatever you want. I believe you can set the temperature, anything at all on that little Holly, which is very handy, I will say, with that Holly. These are these KC lights. They are ridiculous, which makes me love them, and they're like a modern style, so you take like a seal or a halogen or whatever it is, like a little replaceable whatever, H11 or something. So we're going to drill some holes, sink them down, so they'll be sticking through the grill. They'll look a little goofy, but you know what? They'll be bright, and I don't know if you guys ever watch Eric Jalbert, but man, that guy's got lights everywhere, and it's like, we should have a couple. It came with this super fancy, well, I wouldn't say fancy, but awesome wiring harness, so it's got all loomed, ready to go. So we'll just click it in for now, and we can shorten it up as we want later. It's got a little connector into a relay. It's even got like a little fuse thing, so again, we'll just tie into that a fuse block. I mean, it has another relay. It has everything you need, a little switch and stuff like that. So what we'll probably do yet again, we'll have it all wired up on the relay, and we'll just test it with a jumper wire. And then once everything's done here, we can tape it all, take that, be happy with it. Then we can run wire inside for the fans, and well, these will obviously be on on a switch and hidden, and they're awesome. Now, I'm sure people are going to think, why are you putting KC lights? They're cool, and if I had a truck with a roll bar or something like that on them, I'd absolutely put it on there. But what I do have is a Tri-5 Chevy and another Tri-5 Chevy and 50 Tri-5 Chevys. So they're Tri-5 Chevy lights. I'll get these in real quick, and then we'll test them out. Then we'll fill this up with a little gasoline water, and we should be able to run it, give it a few revs. It'll have water in it. Man, it'll be an exciting time. And it's late, so we'll get to piss the neighbors off at the same time. Okay. I don't have all the lights off because I'm scared of the dark. But man, check these things out. Whoa, does it look cool? Oh yeah. It's like a Christine vibe. So everything's just loose, but came with all that wiring, which is mint. So all I gotta do is run a wire inside and have it on a switch, which I believe I will do. Yeah. Back by popular request was a little water gasoline. You know, everyone says it is what it is, but I tell you, winter here is a pain without a hose. So, hopefully, there won't be any leaks. We will see. Is the radiator good? These things can be a real pain to belch the air out of. Also, I'm putting water in. I'm going to put a note right on the windshield saying, "Idiot, there's water in here. Don't park it outside." Because I don't have any coolant on me, and I want to change that little radiator hose. Seems like a waste to screw around with a bunch of coolant. And everyone, when I was doing this last time, said this should have been the thumbnail. So I apologize for every thumbnail I've probably done on this, because guarantee it's going to involve a jerry can dumping water all over the motor. Oh, maybe I'll hold a torch. Man, I love the clickbait titles and thumbnails. And I swear to God, you guys do too. So I'll get this filled up. Should be able to start it. What's going on here? Okay, well, we got thermostat. This will be a slow fill. Well, it held one of those jerry cans of gas water, which is like 2.5 gallons. On the smaller radiator, it held probably 3.5 gallons with no thermostat. So obviously, these are a real pain. A lot of times, what you actually have to do is if you're ever having an airlock with them, you want to make sure the cap's highest point, obviously, which we did. I pushed this down, but a lot of times you have to fill up through the upper radiator hose, and or the lower radiator hose, one or the other, and it'll you got to kind of burp the air out. It's a real hassle, but whatever. It's got 10 liters, 2.5 gallons in it. We're going to fire it up. I think everything's out of the way. We got a belt on it. The battery should be charged. Yeah, let's see what happens. We'll see what runs, and I'll pop the door open. Ah. I heard the pump go on, controller lit up. Alright, contact. Tensioner's really humming away. I'm going to put a new one of those in. What do we do? There's nothing to touch with a screwdriver. There's no timing to set. Oh, those motors are kind of boring. They work. That's slowly but surely dropping a little bit of coolant, or water, I should say. Got back here. Come on, garage door light. Oh, it's like a techno. Oh. Almost. There we go. little bit. It's at 100 degrees Celsius. Nope, Fahrenheit. Nope. Yeah, Fahrenheit. Little exhausty back here for you. Yeah, this thing runs quiet. Nothing's even smoking. The header's just a very little bit. Nothing's rubbing, man. Just that easy. Almost boring. Well, I'm gonna let it get up to temperature, see if the idle drops down. I set it for like 750, 800, and we'll go from there. I think it's in, it's not learning until it gets up to temperature, so we'll see. It's cold here. Well, hasn't got any warmer. This thing's basically at temperature, idling where it should be. It's hovering between 20, 25, 26, 27 pounds of oil pressure, 180 degrees. I don't know, life's good. Oh, it's cold. Oh, I had to fire the Bobcat up. This thing's been sitting outside all day. It didn't like me. The 57 sits at like 28 pounds of oil pressure type thing when it's idling, so I think that's fine. I also ordered a few people, actually Toilet, garage there. He recommended changing the sensor. I guess they screw up all the time, so I bought one. Man, they were like 40 bucks. For an oil pressure sensor. That's like a whole gauge, mechanical gauge you buy. But so we'll get that all dialed together, change that just cause, but I'm happy with that. Also, this thing is 530 and a little thicker oil will be fine. And also, everyone's freaking out about oil pressure. I was reading these things run like 20 to 25 or something like that is standard when you look up this year of motor. So works for me. It has oil pressure. Everything seems to work. The cooling system seems to work. I mean, at 180 degrees, running for 5 or so minutes, nothing's smoking too bad. A little bit of oil off the headers. I think we got ourselves a nice little hot rod. So, we're still waiting on the rear end. Hopefully it'll be here sooner rather than later. But, oh, I didn't even have a nut on this. That's probably fine. So, yeah, the rear end should be here hopefully sooner rather than later. Put that on there. And then we got to get under it just to make sure nothing's touching all the wires. We did a lot to this thing front to back. We don't want anything rubbing or touching or doing those things. And then a little bit of final wiring. We got to do some stuff inside. I got windshield wipers, all that kind of jazz to make it a real driver. But in the new year, this thing will be a force to be reckoned with. Anyways, do me a favor, it's freezing cold. If you hit that subscribe button, it's like stoking the YouTube fire. It just warms me up on the inside. So I really appreciate the support. Like the video, leave a comment, all those good things. Hopefully you guys are loving this 56 Chevy, because I am in love with it. And sneak peek, or if you're in the know, I think we're gonna work on Danny's 57 after this. I told her I'd put it back together. She's giving me nonstop attitude, so I'm gonna show her, and I'm gonna get her so many cars to drive that when they don't drive them, or if she doesn't drive them this summer, I get to make fun of her. But this is where we're leaving it. See you on the next one.